Two fantastic books this evening, and I will begin by introducing the readers. Reynolds, Petals, Kalule, and Clarissa, Alvarez. Flo's going to be reading first, followed by Clarissa and Petals. We're also going to have a question and answer at the end, so if you'd like to ask questions along the way, please feel free to put those in the chat box or DM me or Luke. Probably better to DM Luke because he's going to be taking a note of them and collating them all at the end. Okay, so I'll begin by introducing Flo and the fantastic book that is The Other Body, which is written in conversation with snails, slime molds, and spookfish. The Other Body explores interspecies relationships and the ways in which the human body is inextricable from worlds beyond its perception. It is by turns playful and contemplative. The Other Body was also designed by and illustrated by Philida Blumel, and there are sections of the pages that are sort of being nibbled at, and it's really rather wonderfully presented. Flo is a writer, artist, and literature programmer based in Norwich, everyone knows where Norwich is, in the UK. Their work explores ecology, embodiment, queerness, and plurilingualism, in forms ranging from poetry to science fiction to sound art, often in collaboration with other beings, both human and non-human. The Other Body is their debut pamphlet. And I will hand over to Flo now.
Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely introduction, and to you and Luke for bringing The Other Body to reality. Also to Philida for making it so beautiful. To Petals and Clarissa, it's an honour to be reading alongside you today. And for everyone for showing up, thank you. I'm going to start this reading with a cat poem. Cat poems get a bad rep, but I enjoy them. This one's called Assemblage, and in terms of its form, it does what it says on the tin. It's a bit of a jigsaw of lots of different pieces. Assemblage. You're your own cyborg ecology. Say, hello, vital assemblage. Together we can rule the galaxy as soon as we decide our collective noun. And you too can choose radical softness, kidneys of cat flesh, mattress of mattress flesh, chasm of despondency, tundra of ennui. Begone cushioning devices, begone history. Dissemble. Walk down the street and drop your mother tongue. Blackbird says his danger sneeze because the white cat entered into the same intimacy up there under the skirt of God. God caught the sneeze like a yawn against all laws of gravity. So come to us this reed moon, bristling with a cornucopia of our shed skins. I shall know thee through the ghosts of other bodies, which will emanate all around us to form a precious trellis, onto which we'll glue chitinous eggs, and the eggs will display a chatoyancy that has gone unseen for many moons. What the white cat can hear, the voice of the velvet cushion. What the white cat knows, enchantment. How to be the white cat. Stand beside the white cat. And it came to pass, though what the white cat unleashed upon this mortal coil no man can tell, that the group sworn to live and die as poets stayed worryful and woeful in the face of the kind of animism that shows the hackles of the universe rise up against one's adolescent greed, and save but one, they were sadly waylaid. The neighbourhood's moustache clippings gather in romantic drifts. The white cat is unperturbed, remains charismatic. Interlude. White cat, I entreat thee, be most joyous entropy. By the lawless law of lick, there is so much work to do. Of our assembly, all shall be as birds to Deinonychus, flexible wrist joints, one long toe. Mark you this cataclysm cat, when cat, bird in rowan tree, when blossom, frosts. Enter now a band, vengeful Erinyes and retinue of elite retainers, trained to see the state of many bodies and their rapports, that composition, troubling intimacy, pollution, demands complicity, and attend to art in trying times as times tend. Exeunt. A great emptiness overwhelms the scene. The white cat meows its making. Occurrences occur, conflagrations, eruptions, bushfires, severe weather warnings, many hundreds of working hours lost to unauthorized absences. The bells of a drowned church ring out in the valley. The vomit of centuries shoots into the mouth of the present. The white cat saunters through the garden of Mother Julian. The parasites of the white cat saunter through the body of the white cat. The white cat is dignified in its molecules. The paw of the white cat is the size of a snail. The world's taste is of white, hot ash. I'm now going to read from what I suppose is the spinal column of the little book. It's a sequence called The Other Body, from which the book takes its name. And this is the third part. Refract the baleful supermoon and make iced sphere voice. Thrown stone makes here its moonstone ring, and your finger your flamingo legs. Then spring calls algae, algae you, algae them, the algae body, algae business analysts at their desks. Thrown stone makes here silverfish in fur, mini beasts, midi beasts, maxi beasts, parasitic sequining. No season but the green season, no warmth but the breath, calls up condensation. No season but loquat season, failed sales season, cold sweat season. Bloom on the body, in the water butt. Bloom the body, blue the body, or blue-green. Each season an abacus of 10,000 hand-turned beads. They may not be moonstone, they may not yet thaw. Our encounter is in the data center. The data center is boiling your house. I learn you in the midnight zone between two histories. History is the deepest water, 7,000 foot down and illegible. The feet of those before us, our ancestral mollusks. Darkness adorn me in my hair, and toothed ribbons and mantles swathe me. Data swathe me, Dalmatians swathe me. The utmost law of beauty is safe remove. And from afar focus, for I do love you, spookfish, at safe remove, and treasure what you see, plains above, below. I'm next going to read another piece from the sequence, which I wrote a long time before the pandemic, and it has a line about kissing in the face of sickness, which feels now more foolish and also more necessary and joyful than ever before. 3 small anemones with their tentacles pulled in, resting in the bladder. winking their wet, inflamed pucker, a kind of kissing. Please, keep in that body, the one that scowls lustrously, and my high instep is there, joining your hairless calf. Once goby hunting, a green one stung my knuckle. Say it was a snake lock, tipped with purple symbionts. Now forget to tell me important things in order to not have to tell me important things. Or so I say and scowl in the hallway mirror. I am a believer of kissing in the face of sickness. I believe nakedness to be poor observation. After they are cauterized, I will sponge you with salt water. And I'll read one more from that sequence. This one is for Physarum polycephalism, also known as the blob, a kind of slime mold, which I read about in the papers and just sort of fell in love with. So this poem is with my love. I know tissue, I know sinew, a body as sea lettuce of 720 sexes, like poetry of a rare language, heal in moments and continue. Richly I stuff my mouth with 2 nesting tongues and nuzzle at the root a ghost tongue, the lost one. There is and there is not, hers and his and ours and theirs, a here or there. Tentacle beyond tree, learning from the body to be a body mind. To be a body mind equals to be a mouth. To be anomaly does not equal to be lonely. Without indefinite articles, one is simply some self, milk, lathe, turn. There is and there is not belonging to the livingness, and there is only learning and unlearning. Just a very big thank you once again to everyone for being here, and to Guillemot Press for bringing this beautiful book into the world. I'm going to finish tonight with a tongue twister, which I wrote to, I suppose, challenge myself in a particular way. I used to have a lisp, and it was, I suppose, shamed out of me at a very early age. And so this poem is trying to invoke the lisp and to cool it down and manifest it again. And it makes reference to an experiment that I used to do. I lived in a house with a completely barren garden. It was just gravel, but whenever it rained, hundreds and hundreds of snails would come out, and suddenly the garden was alive. And I used to run out there and put my notebook down on the ground and let the snails and the rain crawl over the book. And it was just fascinating to see which words they would eat and which words they would leave. So this poem makes reference to that experiment. Song for a lisp. Sing for mistakes as a praxis that assumes the slip up as resonant mantle of faux pas, born in the wet of the body, a difficulty in soft, moist things, an unseemly seepage as strategy. Celebrate how still, under stress, the lisp escapes. Some sounds slipperier than others, sounds of a pigskin sole on shined parquet. Its cause, supposed laziness, a too eager tongue with reluctant teeth, the raw squid of the mouth resisting the ski slope in the skull. Sibilance is posited as sleekness, as ease, elegance, a feline femininity, though it is spurious to assume these qualities. They are attributes seldom possessed. As a child should be seen and not heard, you must put on your best satin ball gown before you attempt the ascent. When I invited in the snails, it was an eco-literary intervention. Sub rosa, in which my notebook, in some planned or unplanned cyborgism, became a textual matrix of a distant century. The snails were curiously lacerated, circled with transpiring pores and thickly sliding on their single sole, their mucus rich and flowing. The sound as they sucked the page of the book billowed and scrunched, the sound of a creature of much greater stature, confined and pacing the terror of the margins. Thoroughly snailed, slayers of men-at-arms and lowmen, spiraling and protruding with their seeing sticks extended, jousting with the worthiest knights of their day, victorious and shocking as the swollen sepal parts, the notebook succumbed to the salivation of snails, its spirit was received, bore the sores of their suction, words spilled and were lost in the snail holes. The snails undid grammar and any semblance of sensible syntax was destroyed. In my praxis of mistakes, insert an asterisk, an elusive stipulation. To speak has a power of harness. The method slips its harness, sets off for a secret soiree somewhere less salubrious, though you'll say that it should have been softer, and the chorus will hiss as you speak, and they'll reap a persuasive harvest. They'll seduce a tacit deduction as a jus or a scurrilous garnish. The impediment isn't what stops you, hand on wrist and a serious stare. What halts is a certain reception that speaks before words pass the lips. After the party, I found the last snail where my tongue had been. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. I think you did bring down the list, but I kept feeling it in my mouth as you were reading. It's just gorgeous, and what a fantastic cat poem as well. Beautiful reading. Thank you so much, Flo. I'll crack on and introduce Petals and Clarissa now. I'll introduce Marsh-River-Raft-Feather as well. Marsh-River-Raft-Feather is an experiment in relational river reading and playful earth chatter. It considers different ways of being separably with non-human life that move away from Western human anthropocentric desires. It attempts to listen to and remember how our ancestors unknowably lived with and continue to live with earth, sky, tree, stone, feather, river, marsh. There's a link to Clarissa and Petals' Marsh-River-Raft-Feather Spotify playlist on the website. I think Luke has already put a link up, but maybe that will manifest itself in a minute again. Clarissa is a teacher, poet, an errant story unteller who belongs to the ancestral Rio Grande Bravo. They are from Laredos, but can currently be found living on the lands, waters of Corpus Padre Island. Petals is a composer, poet, and multi-instrumentalist. They live on the hidden river Ephra in London. Their first collection, Kalimba, was published by Guillemot in 2019, and I shall hand over to them now.
Shall we gather by the river? Yes, we'll gather by the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. That sits by the throne of God. Beautiful, beautiful river. That sits by the throne of God. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Clary.
The epigraphs, transmissions, transitions in this text do not foreclose. They gather, they marsh, they feather, they river. Consider this also an unfurling of water dreams, as a washing away of ideas, be they poetic, biological, gendered, philosophical, psychic, social, etc. And so here, anthropocentric modes of human representation and sovereignty are inapplicable. The river marsh washes all of that away. This is not a poetic, it's an immersive flux, a raft, an enmarshment, a rivering, a feathering perhaps. Y si pensamos con los pajaritos, veremos que en el cielo y las nubes tampoco hay límites. So now I'm going to read a little epigraph, a quote from that's in our epigraph from a theorist who is very dear to me. They say, the river is a place of confluence. That's by Marisa Muñoz. And the other one is, si está nublado en la mañana, me concentro en el mar, by Boca Floja. And I don't know if Petals wants to read maybe one of the other epigraphs, or continue.
Yeah, I'll just read the one by Archie Shep, or perhaps I'll read both of them. The emphasis was on textures rather than the making of an organization or entity. And the other one by Cecil Taylor. It means the most heightened perception of oneself, but oneself in relationship to other forms of life. Yeah. Do you want to start, Clary?
Yeah, so I'm going to start reading a few poems. It's Wood, Word, Pecker. To fly is almost to say we are leaving behind all predicates. It is groundless in all senses of the word. Nothing really needs grounding, for to ground is to stake claims to earth. It is to own. What could the beyond, yet not beyond, of flight teach us? The folly of thresholds, maybe? Imagine rivering as a center that also looms as an center of flow. The tropology of the Anthropocene is a scenic sin, a fascistoid poetics of dominance as care for earth others that upholds heterocolonial logics of ownership and custodianship. The Marsh-River-Raft-Feather poetics plays towards an elsewhere, way away from this position. For earth is not a possession. Earth isn't an object of conquest. So, Petals.
Shifting through so many different things. Marsh repose. Mash crossroad paths, mash leg bar, mash krish, mash corridor of ether, mash dudum ballet, mash lara kalaka, mash mamoris concerto, mash chacon, mash gamaka, mash chamber block music, mash procession, mash epitaph, mash way, mash tumble, mash muffle, mash churn, mash cajole, mash meander, mash ravine, mash ecstasis, mash mycelia, mash restoreth pasture, mash holy-haired white goat, mash hammer, axe, and sickle, mash baptism, mash sense, mash vigil, mash valley of the shadow of life, mash thou art with us forever, mash goodness and mercy hollow me out, mash thine rod and staff comfort us, mash Athen mound of friends, mash Haberry, mash last with me, mash orgy, mash mosh, mash Haston, mash Caspar, mash shrine, mash good runneth over.
All right, so I'm going to continue. A Marsh-River-Raft-Feather poetics might mark the possibility of Earth without man. Relation is curiosity. Curiosity is relation. What's often missing is their echo and ego-friendly. And so much of what we are thinking through here is how to attune to responsiveness rather than responsibility. Earth is spirit, Earth is ancestor, which is why they can never save it. The words sustenance and relation could do more than save. Song and marsh compress, attend sharply to all that unearths when you wing it.
Okay, I'm gonna read a playful one we called Ways of Beaking. Nibble, crumble, probe, crawl, crisp, chop, scythe, chisel, slash, shakere, straw, kiss, ridge, tear, plane, shape, pebble, peg, slit, tongue, flute, nook and cranny, thread, scope, chip, cling, pecker, mallet, millet, chow, knock, cocorocco, scan, picule, scavenge, scroll, plow, shrike, filter, catch, pith, cleft, clink, Caesar, slash, stash, slice, wren, squall, crunch, pestle, prune, trumpet, toot, farrow, scribble, wrench, sting, worm, thistle, shell, fillet, pouch, pool, scrabble, oboe, gouge, bill, bergamot, stir, frog, ping pong, jar, pluck, riff, sniff, waffle, flake, cusp, fork, spoon, split, kibble, peekaboo, shift, click, twit, finger, carve, canoodle, decrypt, pinch, rivet, tink, rapt, whisper, hue, yell, button, embouchure, coo, call, snicker, lick, lips, cup, paradiddle, lark, snuff, staccato, skim, pencil, tink, scope, ping, sew, file, copy and paste, pout, snout, swipe, hook or cook, douche, shovel, anthemis, snorkel, hold, rattle, bash, ribbon, pass, disc, pitcher, suck, poke, kazoo, gape, curl, grip, carve, cavern, lancet, nectar, pick, vex, scroll, seal, claw, cornrow, tit, acatura, gobble, prick, kekereke, kukiloko, kasiri, kiri, siri, kiri, 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 Sid, pry, fish, bug, dip, tip, tug, net, snap, axe.
All right. Petals, would you mind reading the while?
Ooh. The funny thing about this text is there's no pages, so that's quite that's quite a challenge to find things, but I've seen it. Okay. While or lily lyre, lily gily, river lily.
Rest, nest. Know that the point of work is in completion. ¿Qué es lo que desea un río? Un río susurra. The desire to complete is also the desire to borderize, categorize, and boundarize. Stillness does not conform, it limbs. Why be? Why feel the need to be if you already are? Try to lean into what some may call poetic redundancies. The marsh is often reduced to such redundancy, but there's much flowering abundance there.
Just a question, Luke and Sarah, how are we doing for time?
Completely relaxed.
Sorry?
Completely relaxed. You're
Okay,
fine.
okay. Yeah, okay. I'm rivering into the next section after that. Birds are suture salmons, lesson in thatch, catch, thank, latch, attach. To be enmarshed is not an invitation. It isn't hospitality. Enmarshment is not in a position to offer hospitality, for hospitality harbors rules and obligations of hold, house, hostage. It is more than hospitality. It is the uneconomic plenipotence of relation. Perhaps by relation, we mean an enjoining of all of Earth's tender small oscillations. Relation is oscillatory. Its little sinusoid circles go over and under and over and under and over again and again, sagging, threshold. Clary, do you want to read Relation is Curiosity, then we can head towards the end?
I think I read, or Relation is Curiosity.
Or did you have another sequence you wanted to read?
Also, they were into this. Human-made structures attempt to control river, but there is no controlling river. A river always rivers. But Earth isn't metaphysically ours or theirs too. It isn't ours to reclaim or redeem too. We flip, wing, we move, we sky through. And so that's about, from my end, that's a lot. That's about all I have. Like, Petals, do you want to read anything else? There's a lot. There's quite a
yeah, we could read so much more, but
yeah.
I think I'll just play some music and tie us towards an end of sorts. Although the river never ends, right? But just to tie us into some kind of like conclusion, and then.
Oh yeah.
I'm reading the last, we struggle to call these poems, but perhaps they're poems. I don't know what they are. We try, Clarissa, we can talk about this later, I guess. But I'm reading the last, I'll call it a sequence for now. The last sequence of texture in this text. Okay. If at the end of its text, a river asks how to row, simply go. Dangle, shimmy, bop onto a string. River and say the marsh. Parch, carve, slack. Scordatura as on a cello. Arco wing. With skid, raffle, swivel. Ledge, swirl. Swirl. River and say the marsh. River. River and say the marsh. River, river, river. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you. Oh, there's lots of little comments coming in, which I'll come back to in just a second. Thank you very much, Flo, Clarissa, and Petals. Absolutely loved that. I'm going to read back through some of the comments that came through from Flo's reading first, just to allow people, if they want to, ask any questions. I've got a couple that have come in through direct messages, but if you want to ask anything, we've got probably about 10 minutes, I think, if we do have time. Petals picked up the wine and then disappeared. I quite like that. So going back to the sorry, we had, so I've got, yeah, there was some nice responses straight away, Flo, for your the cat. You're wonderful. I love that poem. Actually, that came from Cat as well. Beautiful poem, The Law of Lick, from Susie. Also loved it. Yvette, love a nicely springing mold, came from Anthony. And Erasure by Snails, this is also from Anthony. Erasure by Snails reminds me of some of the intersemiotic translation techniques explored in Currently and Emotion by Sophie Collins, which is probably something you're aware of, I'd have thought. And that was lovely from Matthew. Enjoyed that so much, Victoria. Thank you for these slime poems. I can't read my writing on who wrote that. Katie, I think it says. And thank you, a gorgeous reading from Aaron. Gorgeous from Susie, lots of gorgeouses here, which is good to see. And such interesting ways of using language from Susie. There's even more coming in, I can see, which I will get to in just a minute. And then we had, right from the beginning of Petra and Clarissa, we had lovely A Call to Gather from Diego. That was when Petals was playing the piano right at the beginning. And loving the sounds and the words from Susie. Pen as fret, so appropriate from Matthew. And love the use of rivering as verb from Renya. Yeah, there's another gorgeous from Kat, lots of really lovely comments coming through, which we will save and show you later, because it's quite a lot to read through, isn't it? Let's have a look. What else have we got just more recently? I'm seeing lots of applause, lots of wonderfuls. Yes, yummy from Brian, amazing, beautiful. Adore you, applauds from iPhone. Delightful from Renya, incredible from Lee Loafer. Thank you from Aaron, so incredible from James. What a fantastic trio, Sarah. Wonderful, Angela. Thank you both from James. Wow from Monique. Thank you, Pranav. Very proud. Bravo from George. Lots and lots coming in. Thank you so much from Joe. Thank you from Marsh Oscillations from Katie. It's a nice phrase. Just beautiful from Sam. Oh, and I've got a question here that's come into the chat, which I will ask first, which is, I haven't even read it through, so I'll just read it out as I'm doing it. Let's hope it's all right. I want to ask Clarissa and Petals about their relationship to Sycorax video style and aesthetic influences they draw on. So which of you wants to test that?
Larry, do you want to?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. I want to ask about your relationship to Sycorax video style and aesthetic influences you draw on.
Aesthetic influences I draw. I mean, there's so many. I think it would be impossible to name them all here. I think when we were writing this together, but I also, at least for me, right, I also had I was listening to music from other sort of friends, and music from other artists and elders. So I always had that kind of like ancestral connection to the earth and to music. And yeah, I don't know if Petals would.
I guess what they perhaps may be wondering, Sycorax, the book starts with like a tribute to Kamal Brathwaite, who's like, I guess, an altar for both of us. And I guess there's much, could we say Kamawing as a verb, perhaps, in the text, right? There's a kind of like a desire to be in the text with, you know, Kamal and other people who Kamal, and what we mean by this is, you know, drawing on, you know, ways of being in relation to the world, and perhaps not the world, because that's the word we try to resist in this text, but the earth perhaps. And I mean, you cannot explain some things, you know, we were compelled to write like this. Kalimba kind of makes similar movements, but I think this is, I think we call this form rivering, right? This is a form that's quite unique to the text and just does its own thing. We quite don't know if it's a whole poem or if it's a series of poem or if it's, you know, a series of like musical notes or fragments. Yeah, but that's what I could say.
I'd probably just add that Kamauing is one of the most daunting things to try typesetting. and again, like you say, not knowing whether it's a series of poems or one long poem, we were having that sort of constant little back and forth, weren't we, about figuring out where things end. It was really good fun, but it was one of those things I was sort of looking at and thinking, I wish I could leave that till later, figure it out. But it was great fun. I think it ended up using like 20 different types or something, between 15 and 20 different types in there, which was good fun. We've had a couple of questions again about the same thing actually. So I'll read Susie's version, which is loving to hear more about your collaboration process and how the music formed the work. Did the music form part of your working together?
Yeah, I mean, music is such a big part, was such a big part of the collaboration process. Right, I think as Petals have said before, I can't remember, I think it was an article, right, about how rivering is also a kind of music, and it has its own kind of rhythms that aren't necessarily explainable, right, or that is very hard to describe and listen to at times. Yeah, I think for me, I was listening to a lot of music from friends like Boca Floca, and just doing a lot of hard listening.
Yeah, I guess for me, I would say that words have to sing in order to carry meaning. Like, yes, we can have words, but if they don't sing, they don't make me feel things, right? And I want to think that being able to feel something from a word, then kind of should be one of the things that I want to sit with. Like, how does a word become sound, and how does sound become a word, and how can I play with that? So that's one of the things I try to think of. And Clary's and also another thing, I guess, is we're working in like 3 different languages in this text, right? So there's lots of like different sounds and words and musics that are happening, that are rivering, and we quite I think it is a musical text. It's a kind of like, it's a song, a long song, if you like.
I just noticed that the cover artist for yours, Petals and Clary's, come in. Yanina, just sort of say a quick hello as they've come in. Flo, I've got a little question for you as well here from earlier on, which was lots of references to spells, invocations, and enchantments. What role does magic play in your work?
Oh, that's a really interesting observation. I think I'm not sure if that's been a conscious thing on my part. I know there's been a lot of really wonderful writing over recent years about magic and sort of using magic for the purposes of writing. I think that's something that, as I say, has not been a conscious concern of mine. Apart from just, I suppose, a sense of wonder in the world and the creatures that I see around me. Lots of these poems were just composed in very mundane places on my commute to work, in the gravelled garden of a student house many years ago. And I suppose the magic comes from that observation. I suppose I feel like I wrote these poems during a point where I was feeling quite defeatist about the state of the world and the potential to bring us back from the brink of climate disaster. And these were my way, I suppose, of falling in love with the world again and falling in love with creatures, and actually pulling myself out of ignorance and defeatism and wanting to love it and be close to it and to really feel it. So I suppose magic in that sense, absolutely. But spells and invocations, I think those are probably coming from the way that language works itself, an interest on that kind of the level of the word. I suppose, rather than as a subject that I'm drawn to.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Petals and Clary. I'm not sure how answerable this is. This is from Brian. How does one kiss the river ink?
Clary, do you want to try that?
Hmm.
Do you want to kiss first? We can be very promiscuous without kissing.
What does one kiss the river? I don't know. Literally or figuratively. I mean, I don't know. I think whenever I go into, there's this sort of kind of like magnification or this intense feeling whenever you enter into a river. At least the river that I enter to, the Rio Bravo, Rio Grande, right? So I enter into it, and it's just this intense feeling of belonging to it. Right, and being able, I mean, I do kiss it literally sometimes, right? You attempt to grab water with your hands, and it just falls through, or you swim in it. You kind of like twist and twirl in it. At least that's what I do when I'm in a river. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Petals has a sort of answer, or maybe it's unanswerable.
I guess I wouldn't have an answer. I mean, I live on top of a hidden river, the River Ephra, and I discovered this like a few months ago. As I was kind of editing this text, that I live in a hidden river, so it's quite. How do you kiss a ghost, right? Like, but then how do you remain haunted by that? By that non-presence, which is also an overwhelming presence, right? I think it's perhaps a demand or a call to listen to those who are not with us, but we know are around us, right? But those who are in us. I guess that's what we're doing when we try to Marsh-River-Raft-Feather, right? We're trying to open out to where we cannot, go, I guess. I don't know.
Sorry, I realized that was a difficult one.
It is a very difficult question.
I think as an answer, how does one kiss a ghost is quite a good one. We've got a little question there for Flo as well, actually. Did different creatures inflect your language in different ways, e.g. cat language versus snail language? And that's from Susie Campbell.
Oh yeah, thank you, Susie. That's a great question. I would say yes. I mean, the snail poem was, I suppose, trying to trace a similarity, a textual similarity between the body of a snail and the tongue. And one of the other poems I read notes our ancestral mollusks, and just, I suppose, finding commonalities between the human body and other types of body. And certainly the cat poem, formally, that definitely came from my sort of fragmented observations of a cat across a certain period. But I think also in the background of this collection is a concern with plurilingualism, what it's like to speak more than one language, but also to have a language that is lost to you, something that was there and is no longer there. So for me, that would be the Welsh language. And I didn't read any tonight, but there are moments in this book where I'm trying to approach that heritage language for me, punning with it, playing with it, making all sorts of mistakes because my Welsh is terrible. And from that interest, I suppose, I became interested in what other languages have I lost through culture and, just supposed progress. Further and further are we being drawn from, what different trees sound like in the wind, and how to read the weather and how to read the course of a river. and yeah, the rivering that Clarissa and Petals have been talking about. So it definitely inflected my language, these different languages, but I think also it's what's not there, what's missing, and what can we try to approach in English and in human languages, but yeah, what's not quite getting onto the page as well.
That's a great answer. I think that's probably going to be our last question. I'll just read out a few of the comments that have been coming in case people have missed them, which are quite nice. There was a nice one from Susie, such an interesting answer to the magic question from Flo. I liked the comment. I can't quite see who the name is for. We'll go outside and kiss the water of Leith when we're finished. Lots and lots of nice answers here. The calm, cool face of the river asked me for a kiss. Kaguru points to a quote from Langston Hughes. Oh, and the river referee used to come up and flood my cellar when I lived in Brixton, said Susie Campbell. And Susie says, I particularly liked the Molesky language, plural lingualism. Yes, amazing. Thank you, Flo. And that seems like a good place to end, saying thank you to everyone, to Petals and Clarissa and Flo, and to everyone for coming along tonight. I love it when, because I haven't heard Flo read and I haven't heard Clarissa read before. I've heard Petals and love it every time I hear them read. So thank you all. I really enjoyed tonight. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I think we have one more launch this year, which will be mid to end of November, of Norsh Sabar's Litanies. But for now, I will say good night and thank you all once again for coming.